The big injuries coming out of the first week of games, Chris. Let's start with George Kittle. Knee sprain.
Man.
Status for Sunday in doubt. Thanks for nothing, Jimmy Garoppolo with the hospital ball on a screen pass. When I saw that yesterday, hey, I'm telling you, that was a horrible. Chris, you were talking about it Sunday, and I hadn't seen it. That was a horrible throw. What the hell is Garoppolo doing? He's right there.
I
it's
don't know.
a screen pass. And then Kittle, there's a certain point, and I respect Kittle's grit and determination.
Right.
There's a certain point where you just look up and say, see ya. I'm not jumping up to try to catch that damn thing.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. Jimmy Garoppolo did not throw the ball well on Sunday. There's no other way to say it. He didn't play that well either altogether. So, yeah, there's work to be done there, and that's a huge blow. We know that. I mean, George Kittle is the best player on their offense. And then even more important right now, because we've discussed over the last 2 weeks, they're so banged up at the wide receiver position. I'm sure Shanahan had extra plays for George Kittle last week. Because of the lack of receivers, he probably had to say, I need to find maybe just a few more ways to get George the ball. Now you're going into week 2, not sure if he's going to play, do all that. He's great in the run game. He's great decoy. I mean, a lot of what they do offensively is centered around him. So that will hurt this football team who's kind of trying to find their way offensively here.
Yeah, I remember last year he had that knee injury on a Thursday night against the Cardinals.
Arizona, right.
Where it looked horrible.
Oh,
it looked like he was done, and he gutted it out and played most of the game. He took some drives off, not voluntarily. I mean, his knee was at a point where he couldn't go. But then remember those images of him in a suite and cheering? I mean, the guy he's everything football should be.
Exactly right.
But he did miss a couple of games last year because of that. And who knows? Status in doubt for Sunday. They don't have to tell us anything until tomorrow. And even then, all they have to tell us tomorrow is whether or not he practiced, and if so, was he limited? And it'll be knee in parentheses. But we need to see what happens come Friday when a label is applied as to his availability for Sunday's game. Michael Thomas, New Orleans Saints. I had a feeling this was coming, Chris, based upon the crickets that emanated from the New Orleans locker room after the game. The best I could get was they hadn't looked at him yet. They're trying to, and he's not letting them. Well, what high-level athlete, when he knows he's injured, is going to say, sure, take a look at it and confirm for me what I'm fearing? High ankle sprain. That's the bad kind of ankle sprain. That's the ankle sprain that takes 4 to 6 weeks to heal. He believes he can play through it. But I would submit to you, Chris, every year there's 10, 15 guys who suffer high ankle sprains who believe they can play through it until they realize that they can't.
Right. They go out there and maybe they're okay to kind of get it done, but somebody steps on that foot or just barely hits that ankle, and all of a sudden you go, whoa, it feels as bad as it did when I sprained it, and I barely, someone just barely touched it. So he's tough as hell. We know, just like George Kittle, he's another guy where you just go, this is the kind of guy I want in my locker room, on my team, leading my wide receiving core. He's going to give everything he's got to go play. But it's going to affect him, certainly. At least like with Michael Thomas, since such a big part of his game is over the middle, quick passes, things like that, maybe he can get away with it to a degree. Nonetheless, I think the Saints would love to have him out there, a little like what we talked with Kittle, just to be a decoy to help get other guys open, because I think, the depth of their receiving core and just how talented they are is something to question about that team a little bit here going forward.
Jordan Reed looked pretty good on Sunday, relatively speaking, a guy that I thought was going to retire. Right. So that helps.
It does.
But it's not George Kittle.
No.
And you're right. Get him out there if you can, if he's safe. And back to Kittle, kudos to him for taking the stand and getting his contract. This is exactly why you do that.
Right.
Because that season-ending injury that's going to derail your opportunity to ever even get that big contract is one play away at any given time. And, Marlon Mack, the Colts running back, I feel horrible for him. Contract year, supplanted for the future by Jonathan Taylor. You use a second-round pick on a running back. You're not bringing him in to be, a gadget player or a special teamer. You have plans for this guy, or you don't use a second-round pick on him. And then Marlon Mack, first game of his contract year, torn Achilles, out for the year. Taylor takes over as the starter. But, Chris, I feel horrible for Marlon Mack, because here's what's going to happen. He's going to end up signing a 1-year, $2 million deal at the most next year. At the most. Maybe something with incentives, minimum salary with incentives, something like that.
Right.
All because of that one play, that one moment in the first game of the season.
It's a damn shame. There's no other way to say it. I feel for the kid. He's a really good football player, and he's certainly a running back that every team would want. Whether you'd want him as your number one or a great number two, I think that's what he is. He's kind of like a low-level one, but I would look at him and go, that's the perfect number two complement back. He can do everything, and when you tear an Achilles tendon and you're a running back, you're exactly right. He's probably going to get, like you said, minimum with some incentives to see where it goes, and hopefully he can have somewhat of a good year to build on it to then maybe get another better one-year deal after that. It's just a brutal part of that position, and I feel bad for Marlon Mack. The Colts themselves should be okay because, like you said, Naheem Hines, Jonathan Taylor, even the kid Jordan Wilkins, they got three pretty capable running backs to carry the load there, but it doesn't make me feel any better about Marlon Mack. I'm sorry about that.
And this is just 13 months after Jim Irsay, the owner of the team, went on and on about how Marlon Mack could become a special player, and feels like he's played his last game for the Colts. And meanwhile, the Colts and the Vikings get together this weekend in Indianapolis. 2,500 fans authorized to be present for that game, the home opener for the Colts. One of those teams is going to be 0-2. And a lot more people had the Colts in the Super Bowl than the Vikings. And it's going to be a stunner either way to see one of those two teams in the standings come Sunday night at 0-2, Chris.
Yes, it is. And the Colts are going to be they got to be a little sick. They had no business losing that game the other day to Jacksonville. And I don't want to sound insensitive to Jacksonville. I know they capitalized and Gardner Minshew did some good things. The Colts didn't punt. Does people realize that? They were never stopped the whole game. So it was just self-inflicted stupidness by the Indianapolis Colts that led the Jaguars to winning that football game. And that's what happens. When you let games slip away like that, all of a sudden you sit there and you go, whoa, here we are playing a pretty decent team. And if we don't play our best or play real good football, it could change our season 2 weeks into the year to where all of a sudden we're already fighting and behind the eight ball. And it's like we're fighting for your playoff life. And we haven't even got into the swing of football yet.
This will be the ultimate litmus test of what Phillip Rivers has, because a week after Aaron Rodgers sliced and diced the Vikings defense, what will Phillip Rivers be able to do? Will he look like the Phillip Rivers of old, or will he look like old Phillip Rivers? Last week he looked like old Phillip Rivers, so a big test for him, for the Vikings, and somebody is going to be 0-2. Le'Veon Bell and the Jets are staring 0-2, 0-3, 0-4 in the face again. With all that hope and all that promise, and Le'Veon Bell's out several weeks now with a hamstring.
Wait.
Good.
I thought there was nothing wrong with his hamstrings. I thought they were completely fine. I thought that was the tweet he sent out and told the media after the coach held him out, saying his hamstrings were tight. So wait, his hamstrings are hurt now? I thought they were completely fine.
It could be a new injury.
I know.
It's quite possible that he was fine then, that there were indeed nothing wrong with his hamstrings then, but there's a problem with his hamstring now. Or he's had stiffness, he's had tightness, maybe he's overdone it, maybe he didn't work out as hard as he should have in the offseason, maybe he wasn't as engaged during the pandemic as he needed to be in the tip-top shape, and then maybe he came in and pushed it a little bit, and he look, this is a big year for him.
Big.
I could see the anxiety overcoming the concern for your overall health and well-being as a running back, and I think he's going to get traded by the trade deadline the Tuesday after Week 8, and if he's not traded by then, he's not going to be back with the Jets next year. I think this is the beginning of the end for the Jets and Le'Veon Bell.
I'm with you. I don't see how it's not, really. I mean, Le'Veon Bell was amazing before he sat out football and was certainly one of the three best running backs in the game. Right now, where can you honestly sit there and say he stands? They're paying him like he is one of the five best running backs in football. And I don't think anybody could sit here realistically right now and tell me that Le'Veon Bell is in the top 10. For sure not. I mean, really, I think if we started to break it down, question would go, is he top 15 in football right now? I mean, that's really where it goes. And, I just feel bad a little bit for Adam Gase here. Because people are going to blame Adam Gase here, I'm sure, somehow, some way. And I just would like to remind everybody that, some of these guys that have been issues with the New York Jets are not Adam Gase guys. He had no say in bringing them in and dealing with that. But I'm with you, Mike.
He wanted Le'Veon Bell, but not at
that price.
$13.5 million
Right.
per year. And that was a Mike Maccagnan. That was like the final nail for Maccagnan and his crew that got them fired. Because, look, they got duped. And I think Gase knew they were getting duped into this idea that the Ravens were going to pay Bell $13.5 million per year. They weren't. There was nobody else competing with the Jets in that range. I think the 49ers, Chris, were the next team, around 7 or 8 for Le'Veon Bell. So you don't want to have that burden of having that much money in a running back because there's an expectation you're going to use him. And you don't build your offense from the outside in. You build it from the inside out. And Le'Veon Bell is the last piece of the puzzle for a good offense, not the first piece. Gase knew it, and he's had to deal with it. And I think they're all going to be better off. Bell, the Jets, Gase, everyone, if they just let him get healthy and trade him for whatever they can get.
Yeah, I think so too. The thing I'll ask you is, do you think a team is going to be willing to just trade him and maybe pay? I guess so. Pay the money, see where it goes. Again, just the way it looked last night, I just, again, look at Pittsburgh and go, it just seems like it's destined to be that Le'Veon Bell is going to end up in Pittsburgh in some way halfway through this year with the way their running back position looks. But I guess that would be the big question. Is there going to be a team that's willing to trade for him because of the way it's looked? Last year, in hamstring injury now, and then what? We'll be on the hook for, $6 million or $6.5 million for half of his pay this year. I think that'll be the big question.
I think that's the key. And then next year, nothing's guaranteed. And if you decide to keep him around, you rework his contract to reflect whatever the cap is, whatever his performance is. And this is the reality of running backs. They burn bright for a relatively short period of time. And just as we are accepting that they are the best running backs in football, they're already potentially at the top of the mountain and starting down the other side. And it's the rare running back. It's the Adrian Peterson. It's the Barry Sanders. It's the Emmitt Smith. It's the Christian McCaffrey potentially that is going to climb to the top of the mountain and stay on that plateau for a while before the inevitable slide begins to happen. And now it's going to be Frank Gore having the opportunity to be the starting running back for the New York Jets and continue to rack up yards as he tries to pass eventually Emmitt Smith if he can get there. And just like Adrian Peterson, if you give Frank Gore enough years, enough chances, enough carries, he will pass Emmitt Smith. The question is finding someone who will let him do it. And now the Jets for the next few weeks are going to let him do it. And Gase was praising Gore. Gore is everything in Gase's eyes that Bell isn't. And and it's just it's overdue that these two sides divorce. They've been going through the motions for too long, and I think this hamstring injury and him being out for a couple of weeks, I personally believe the goal is, I don't know this, but I believe the goal is get him healthy and let's see who will take him off of our hands.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see, and that would make sense. I'm not so sure I don't disagree with you there. I think that especially if you miss 3-4 weeks like you're saying there, they might just go, okay, yeah, it's, we're in week 6. Give it one more week. You're not totally ready yet, whatever it is, and they almost protect their investment to make sure they can make a trade happen and get that off their books. I think that's the way it's going to, Mike. I agree.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.